Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Narrated Abdul Aziz. Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, when Allah Apostle sallallahu alayhi wasallam invaded Khyber, we offered the Fajr prayer there early in the morning, when it was still dark. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam rode, and Abu Talha rode too, and I was riding behind Abu Talha. The Prophet ﷺ passed through the lane of Khyber quickly, and my knee was touching the thigh of the Prophet ﷺ. He uncovered his thigh, and I saw the whiteness of the thigh of the Prophet ﷺ. When he entered the town, he said, Allahu Akbar, Khyber is ruined. Whenever we approach near a hostile nation to fight, then evil will be the morning of those who have been warned. He repeated this thrice. People came out of their jobs, and some of them said, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has come. Some of our companions added, with his army we conquered Khyber, took the captives, and the booty was collected. Dahiyya came and said, O Allah Apostle sallallahu alayhi wasallam, give me a slave girl from the captives. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, go and take any slave girl. He took Sufya bint Hay. A man came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam and said, O Allah's Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you gave bint Safia bint Hay to Dahiyya, and she is the chef masters of the tribes of Quraydah and An-Nadir, and she benefits none but you. So the Prophet ﷺ said, bring him along with her. So Dahiyya came with her, and when the Prophet ﷺ saw her, he said to Dahiyya, take any slave girl other than her from the captives. Anas radiallahu ta'ala added, the Prophet ﷺ then manumitted her and married her. Thabit asked Anas, O Abu Hamza, what did the Prophet ﷺ pay her as meher? He said, herself was her meher from he manumitted her and then married her. Anas radiallahu ta'ala added, while on the way, Salim dressed her for her marriage ceremony, and at night she sent her as a bride to the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ was a bridegroom, and he ﷺ said, whoever has anything food should bring it. He spread out a leather sheet for the food and some broad dates and other cooking butter. I think he, Anas radiallahu ta'ala, mentioned a sawak, so he prepared a dish of hais, a kind of meal. And there was walima, the marriage banquet of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Narrated Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, Allah Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to offer the Fajr prayer, and some believing women covered with their veiling sheets used to attend the Fajr prayer with him, and then they would return to their homes unrecognized. Narrated Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed in a hamsiya, a square-shaped garment having marks. During the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he looked at its marks. So when he finished the prayer, he said, take this hamsiya of mine to Abu Jaham and get me his Anpijaniya, a woolen garment without marks, as the hamsiya has diverted my attention from the prayer. Narrated Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I was looking at its hamsiya marks during the prayer, and I was afraid that it may put me in a trial by taking away my attention. Narrated Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Aisha had a kiram, a thin marked woolen curtain with which she had screened one side of her home. The Prophet ﷺ said, Take away this kiram of yours, as its pictures are still displayed in front of me during my prayer. They divert my attentions from the prayer. Narrated Akba bin Amir radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the pupil was given a silken farouj as a present. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam wore it while praying. When he had finished his prayer, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam took it off violently, as if with a strong aversion to it, and said, "It is not the dress of Allah's fearing pious people." Narrated Abu Juhayfa radiallahu ta'ala anhu, I saw Allah Apostle in a red leather tent, and I saw Bilal taking the remaining water with which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had performed ablution. I saw the people taking the utilized water impatiently, and whoever got some of it rubbed it on his body, and those who could not get any took the moist from the other's hands. Then I saw Bilal carrying a short spear or stick which he planted in the ground. The Prophet ﷺ came out, tucking up his red cloak, and led the people in prayer and offered 2 rakat at facing Kaaba, taking a short spear or stick as a sutra in his prayer. I saw the people and animal passing in front of him beyond the stick. Narrated Abu Khazam radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Sahal bin Sa'd was asked about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's pulpit. As to what things it was made of, Sahal replied, "None remains alive amongst the people who knows about it better than I. It was made of tamarisk wood of the forest. So and so, the slave of so and so, prepared it for Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When it was constructed and placed in the mosque, Allah's Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood on it, facing the Qibla, and said, Allahu Akbar. And the people stood behind him and led the people in prayer. He recited and bowed, and the people bowed behind him. Then he raised his head and stepped back, got down and prostrated on the ground. And then he again ascended the pulpit, recited, bowed, raised his head and stepped back, got down and prostrated on the ground. So this is what I know about the pulpit. Ahmad bin Hanbal said, as the Prophet was at a higher level than the people, there is no harm according to the above mentioned hadith if the Imam is at the higher level than his follower during the prayers. Narrated Anas bin Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhu, once Allah Apostle fell off a horse and his legs or shoulder got injured. He swore that he would not go to his wife's for 1 month, and he stayed at a mashruba attic room having stair made of date palm trunks. So his companions came to visit him, and he led them in a prayer, sitting wherever his companions were standing. When he finished the prayer, he said, Imam is meant to be followed. So when he says Allahu Akbar, say Allahu Akbar. And when he bows, bow. And when he prostrates, prostrate. And if you pray standing, pray standing. After the 29th day, the Prophet ﷺ came down from the attic room, and the people asked him, O Allah Apostle ﷺ, you swore that you will not go to your wives for a month. He ﷺ said, the month is 29 days. Narrated Abdullah bin Shaddad, Maimuna radiallahu ta'ala anha said, Allah Apostle was praying while I was in menses, sitting beside him, and sometimes his cloth would touch me during his prostration. Maimuna radiallahu ta'ala added, he prayed on a humra, a small mat sufficient just for the face and the hands while prostrating during prayers. Narrated Ishaq, Anas bin Malik radiallahu ta'ala said, My grandmother Malaika invited Allah Apostle for a meal which she herself had prepared. He ate from it and said, "Get up, I will lead you in the prayer." Anas radiallahu ta'ala added, "I took my hasr, washed it with water, and it had become dark because of a long use, and Allah Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood on it. The orphan, the mirror or ruh, and I aligned behind him, and the old lady Malaika stood behind us. Allah Apostle sallallahu alaihi wasallam led us in the prayer and offered 2 rakat, and then left."